At a bank outside Los Angeles, a nighttime explosion that no one hears. Cunning criminals no one sees. It's the perfect burglary in which cash and bandits vanish without a trace. With little to go on, the FBI must use instinct and determination to solve a case that seems impossible to crack.
Bank robbery is a brazen yet simple crime. A mask, a gun, a note passed to a teller. But bank burglary is different. It takes skill to disable an alarm, to penetrate a locked vault. I'm Jim Kallstrom, former head of the FBI's New York office. In 1972, the largest bank burglary in U.S. history went down without a hitch. $8 million gone. Now agents must track a gang of sophisticated criminals with enough money to disappear forever.
Laguna Niguel, California, March 27, 1972. It's Monday morning at the United California Bank. Employees prepare to open for business. When the bank manager tries to unlock the vault door, it won't open.
Somebody call the safe company.
A technician from the vault manufacturer arrives 20 minutes later to check the door's locking system. He works for hours. The combination is right, the tumblers are in place, but unexplainably, even the expert can't get it open.
It's not working.
Looking for another way in, the technician climbs into the rafters above the vault. He is stunned to find a hole cut in the roof. Below, a second gaping hole leading to the vault. Agents from the FBI Santa Ana resident agency immediately respond to the bank. The first investigator to survey the cluttered crime scene is Special Agent Jim Conway.
Upon arriving and getting up on the vault and looking down at this hole, we could see a pile of rubble, I would say 6 feet tall and expanding out.
Once inside the vault, the technician discovers a screwdriver jammed into the lock's gears. Agents suspect the thieves wanted to delay the discovery of the crime. The place is a disaster.
My first impression was there was going to be a lot of time and effort needed to work this out. It was something we couldn't just plow into because we had a crime scene. We were able to walk in, a few of us, and look around and see what the extent was as best we could determine. But we're walking over watches and rings and valuables and everything else because it was all piled into this big cement mess.
Special Agent Frank Calley begins sorting through the chaos.
Just everything was thrown all over the place. There, the locks of hair, all kinds of check statements, photographs, things that people would normally put in a safety deposit box. I remember seeing urns with ashes of deceased people in there.
The agents begin the arduous task of determining how the burglars entered the seemingly impenetrable vault. They notice dark soil and pieces of burlap mixed with the cement rubble. Outside, they find the bank's audible alarm disabled. They also find a ladder. Interpreting the clues, investigators piece together the burglars' intricate plan to breach the vault. They disabled the alarm by injecting it with liquid styrofoam. It hardened, freezing the clapper in place and rendering the alarm useless. Then the burglars climbed onto the roof. Investigators find tape on a rooftop outlet, suggesting the burglars used the bank's electricity. When agents cannot find fingerprints on the tape, they conclude the burglars wore gloves. Fully powered, the burglars sawed a 4-foot opening into the roof.
Good, good. All right, we're in.
Once inside the rafters, they clearly knew how to bypass the interior silent alarm system.
They took a couple of the wires and that would have normally transmitted the alarm signal, and they clipped them both and soldered them together.
It was delicate, highly skilled work.
Knew right away they were smart. They did the homework.
Even with the alarm disabled, 16 inches of steel-reinforced concrete stood between the burglars and the contents of the vault. The only way through, an intensely powerful blast. Agents believe the bandits drilled holes into the cement, then inserted dynamite and electric blasting caps. The blast had to be precisely directed to blow through the cement without injuring the burglars or attracting attention. Agents conclude that the burlap fragments in the soil in the vault indicate that the burglars came prepared.
They placed the burlap bags over the explosive, not only to muffle the sound, but also it would direct the charge into the vault itself and keep the charge going into the concrete where they wanted it rather than coming back out where they were.
The investigators discover burn marks on the steel rebar that reinforces the cement. They conclude that the burglars knew the blast could not crack steel and came prepared with an acetylene torch. Agents turn their attention to assessing the total loss. Bank officials report $50,000 is missing from cash drawers. But the thieves were not content with the cash. They took the time to break into 458 safe deposit boxes. Investigators find tool marks on the locks of the boxes and deduce the burglars used a pointed instrument and a lot of brute force to break them open one by one. They carefully sorted through every item, leaving behind what they didn't want. Amazingly, the bandits were so methodical that they got in and out without being seen or heard. In 1972, most banks were closed on weekends. Agents conclude that the suspects took full advantage of that fact.
Apparently they had been in there several times, in and out over the weekend. They probably went in on Friday night, and they probably didn't get out till late Sunday night.
Not only had the burglars pulled off such a lengthy, complex crime, they did it without leaving a single fingerprint. Although investigators do find a brown cotton glove and broken drill bits, neither is unique enough to be traceable. Agents and deputies collect the debris for further examination at the crime lab. But with no apparent evidence and no witnesses, agents are facing the tough challenge of identifying and locating a group of highly skilled criminals, including electronics and explosives experts. Investigators turn their attention to determining the total loss from the safe deposit boxes. It will be extremely difficult since banks do not keep records of their contents.
Ordinarily, if you had a bank burglary, you would be missing cash. You'd go out and say, yes, we got to find $350,000 worth of cash. At this point, we did not know what was gone. It's a very affluent area. And so the possibilities of a tremendous amount of money and material being lost was evident.
Investigators begin the arduous task of carefully sorting and cataloging every item left in the vault. Then, by interviewing every box holder, agents learn the details of missing jewelry, rare gold coins, and bearer bonds. By a process of elimination, they slowly create a list of the stolen goods. The bank's loss of $50,000 in cash pales by comparison, as the value of the missing items rises to over $8 million. The heist has now become the largest bank burglary in U.S. history. With no physical evidence to go on, investigators hope to develop leads by thinking like the bandits.
We felt that they would need oxygen to burn the rebar, and so we canvassed hospitals, oxygen supply places, and things like that.
Despite checking every oxygen supplier in the area, agents come up with nothing.
We also felt that a drill of some type had to be used, obviously a large one, so we canvassed places to find if anybody had sold or rented a large drill, as we felt it would have to be used.
Again, agents go to dozens of equipment shops, checking records during the time surrounding the break-in. But they find no suspicious purchases or rentals. Clearly, the criminals in this case have masterminded and pulled off a nearly perfect heist. With no witnesses, no direct clues, and certainly no suspects, it seems impossible to solve. But the FBI is determined to identify the burglars and find them wherever they are. In March 1972, a professional crew of burglars blasted their way into a bank vault in Laguna Niguel, California, near Los Angeles. Over a weekend, they emptied hundreds of safe deposit boxes, made off with more than $8 million in cash and valuables, then disappeared without a trace. Agents believe they are an experienced band of criminals. The case is difficult to crack for the small Santa Ana FBI office. Needing more resources, they seek the help of the larger Los Angeles FBI field office. Special Agent Paul Chamberlain supervises the investigation.
At the time, it was our conclusion that this was the largest bank burglary in the history of the United States. We went to just about everyone in the office. It was several hundred agents, and that's not a typical response, but it became apparent that the crime was a significant crime.
The Santa Ana agents quickly briefed the Los Angeles office on the details.
We'd not had a bank burglary like that in recorded history in the Los Angeles division. Burglaries that did occur with banks involved a small effort, and this was a systematic, big-time operation that lasted over 3 days.
Since the burglars seem to be highly skilled professionals, yet have not struck Los Angeles before, agents conclude that they're probably from out of town. An agent sends a teletype to all other FBI offices, asking if anyone knows of similar bank burglaries. They get a hit from the Cleveland, Ohio field office, where agents have been investigating similar bank heists, 13 of them, in fact. The description of the California burglary immediately strikes a chord with them, including Special Agent Buddy Nix.
We knew from the modus operandi, the MO, the outside alarm had styrofoam spray placed in it to keep the audible alarm from activating, the fact that it was a roof job, the fact that the alarm system had been bypassed were all indications that bank burglary crews in Youngstown very well may have been involved.
The Ohio agents believe the 13 Ohio bank heists were committed by the Youngstown Erie Bank Burglary Group, a loose association of criminals tied to organized crime. The California agents were right. These are no small-time crooks.
Youngstown at that time was just a mecca for organized crime activities. I mean, they controlled the illegal gambling businesses, and they were, very much involved in interstate transportation of stolen property and tractor-trailer thefts. And there were burglary crews that were operating, and there were a lot of very sophisticated burglaries that were taking place at that time.
As part of earlier investigations, the Youngstown, Ohio agents have identified nearly 100 men believed to be part of the burglary group. They've collected intelligence on each of them. Agents send the men's names and mugshots to the Los Angeles FBI. There, investigators try to narrow the list. Since the criminals must have traveled to California, agents check airline passenger manifests from around the time of the burglary. Without the benefit of modern computers, it is a time-consuming process done by hand. After an exhaustive search, they find the names of 5 men from the Youngstown list who had boarded a recent flight to Los Angeles.
That's great.
Emil Dinzio, Harry Barber, Charles Mulligan, Charles Brockles, and Philip Christopher arrived in California 9 days before the heist. A 6th man, James Dinzio, came in on a different flight the day before the burglary. Finally, agents have developed suspects.
Dinzio and his brother, Emil Dinzio.
Agents review the intelligence gathered on the 6 members of the burglary group. All have long records for home and small business burglaries,
First suspect we're going to look
and
at
have done
today,
little jail time.
Emil. So if we get him,
Emil Dinzio appears to be the brains of the gang, the leader.
you need to pay attention to that picture and remember his face.
He plans the jobs and handpicks the team to pull them off.
This is Charles Brockles. This guy has a
Charles
history of,
Brockles is an explosives and electronics expert,
since he was a kid.
well-versed in bank alarms.
Blown a hole in a roof.
Agents believe Philip Christopher is a lookout for the gang.
All right, he's known for his expertise in bank robbing.
The other gang members are all relatives of the leader and probably help with the grunt work.
Muscle of the group, Oliver James.
There's Emil's older brother, James,
His face only a mother could love.
and Charles Mulligan, Emil's brother-in-law.
Here, you're gonna really appreciate this guy. Yeah,
There's also Emil's nephew, Harry Barber.
Okay, why don't you take a look at this guy?
The men are all seasoned professional criminals, well-connected in organized crime.
Mr. Harold Barber, he's a lowlife.
The Youngstown, Ohio FBI has linked them circumstantially to many bank burglaries, but never had direct evidence.
All right, and he's
The
a
charges
lowlife.
never stuck.
He's a nobody, not a heavyweight, but we gotta...
The only information that links the suspects to the crime is that they were all in Los Angeles at the time of the burglary. Agents begin the difficult job of tracking their movements, starting at the airport.
We then canvassed and interviewed every cab driver at LAX that was working that day. That was a massive project.
If I showed you a couple pictures.
Agents spend days interviewing dozens of drivers. It finally pays off. One cab driver recalls taking a group of 5 men to a home in the nearby community of Southgate. He remembers the trip well.
The cab driver specifically remembered these folks for 2 reasons. One, because of the $100 tip, but for the other reason, they were tough, mean-looking guys.
Agents get the address from taxi records and decide to go there. But it is a risk. Agents fear that if the suspects find out they're investigating the burglary, they might skip town. They have to take the chance. It is their only lead, according to Special Agent Jim Conway.
But we had to interview somebody. We had to get our investigation started, and we were concerned that naturally that the rest of them would be aware that we were at least that close to identifying them.
Agents learn that the Southgate house belongs to the Barber family.
I don't have any idea.
Ronald Barber, the brother of suspect Harry Barber, agrees to an interview but is elusive.
Yeah.
We did not have a warrant or anything at that particular time. We had nothing positively to tie him to it. But the more he talked, the more he seemed to know, and the more we were impressed that he knows a whole lot.
Ronald Barber claims the 6 men were never at his house. Agents still have no direct evidence. Yet they believe Barber's story may be at least partially true. They note that the house seems too small to accommodate Ronald and 6 other men staying there. Agents conclude that at least some of them likely stayed elsewhere. So agents spread out, checking one hotel after another, starting with those closest to the bank. Special Agent Frank Calley.
We figured these fellows were high rollers. They knew they were going to get a big haul, so they were going to stay at a nice place. So we were knocking on the doors of every fine hotel in the LA, Orange County area.
It is more tedious, time-consuming footwork, but they do not give up.
Sir, I'm with the FBI.
On a hunch, one agent decides to take a different approach.
There was an agent who figured that maybe they didn't stay at the best hotels, and he took it upon himself to walk into a truck stop hotel. And lo and behold, he found out that Emil Denzio had stayed there.
You're sure? You're positive.
Emil Denzio is the leader of the burglary group.
But they would have been together all 5.
Records show his brother-in-law, Charles Mulligan, also rented a room there around the time of the heist. Agents check Mulligan's registration card and find a license plate number.
It's Denzio.
They trace it to the Southgate address of Ronald Barber. Investigators now have 7 suspects, the 6 from Ohio and the local Ronald Barber. They still have nothing directly linking the men to the crime. But the investigation is finally rolling forward, and the FBI is closing in. Weeks after a well-planned multi-million-dollar bank burglary in Southern California, the FBI identifies 7 suspects. Ringleader Emil Denzio and his brother James Denzio, Charles Mulligan, Philip Christopher, and Charles Brockles, and Harry Barber and his brother Ronald Barber. A notorious gang of professional thieves based in Youngstown, Ohio. Agents determine at least 2 of the men stayed at an area motel days before the heist.
Okay.
Special Agent Paul Chamberlain is convinced the men are responsible, but he has no evidence to prove it.
By reference and innuendo, you kind of knew who was involved, but you need to have the evidence in federal court.
Agents subpoena the motel phone records and find a series of calls to a local man named Earl Dawson.
Our background investigation concluded he was a former military, a Marine guy with some training in munitions, explosives. And inasmuch as we had major explosions that occurred at the bank, it became interesting to us.
Special Agent Frank Calley learns of another interesting connection.
Yeah, we're going to be down on...
Dawson is from Youngstown, Ohio, the base of operations for the burglary group.
So the light goes off again, and we say, well, now we got another break. We got the connection somehow between the boys from Youngstown, the Denzios, and their cohorts in Dawson.
The agents decide to approach Dawson at his house to convince him he should cooperate. They show him pictures of Emil Dincio and his associates and ask if he knows them. Dawson is reluctant to talk.
I was in the Corps as well.
Knowing Dawson is a former Marine, Special Agent Calley appeals to his sense of duty.
Earl was a very patriotic individual, and I'm a former Marine, and we just kind of played that. I said, come on, Earl. You know, you're a former Marine, you've served your country. I said, what's important, Earl? It's a big case. And he said, what is it? I said, heard about that bank burglary down in Laguna Niguel?
Calley's tactic works. Dawson comes clean. He admits knowing 3 of the suspects: Emil Dincio, Emil's brother James, and Charles Mulligan. He and Mulligan are old friends who grew up together in Youngstown. Dawson tells Calley that the day before the Laguna Niguel heist, Mulligan came to his house with the other suspects. Mulligan gave him $100 to leave the house for a few hours so they could hold a meeting. Dawson left without hearing what they discussed.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
But Dawson adds that he does have something the agents might want to see.
He shows up the other day.
Mulligan left a car in his garage. It's still there. It is a huge break. Perhaps the car holds the evidence they've been looking for. But before they can check it out, they're interrupted.
While I'm talking to him, the phone rings. He answers the phone and he picks it up and he points to the phone and he mouths the word Mulligan.
Thinking quickly, Agent Calley asks Dawson's permission to eavesdrop, a legal requirement for using what he hears in court. Dawson signals that there is another phone in the bedroom.
Mulligan comes out and he says, has anybody at the FBI been around? Dawson says, no, they're not around. I think I've almost had to laugh myself at the time listening to this. He's playing a beautiful role out there. He's really flip-flop. He's on our side now.
Mulligan explains that he knows the FBI has been asking questions about him and his cohorts, and that they're getting worried. And he's heading back to the Los Angeles area.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Mulligan said, I want to come out tonight and to see us. I'm going to move the car in the garage.
Agent Calley seizes the opportunity to trap Mulligan. But he fears that he might be setting up Dawson and the FBI.
Didn't know for sure this officer, he could be sitting across the street at the time watching us, for all we know, with our FBI car sitting out front.
Calley instructs Dawson to arrange a meeting with Mulligan in a public place. Dawson tells Mulligan to meet him at his favorite bar, the Walnut Room. Mulligan agrees. Now agents have a chance to inspect the car Mulligan left in the garage. But it does not belong to Dawson, so he cannot give them permission to search it. Through the window, they can see a pair of brown cotton gloves, exactly like the one found in the vault. The back seat is covered in what appears to be cement dust, similar to the debris found at the crime scene. It is the probable cause agents need to obtain a search warrant for the car. They also obtain an arrest warrant for Charles Mulligan and set up surveillance at the Walnut Room. Plainclothes agents position themselves inside the bar, not far from Dawson.
We staked it out, so to speak. Four of us were inside waiting, and we had a couple of men outside waiting for him to arrive.
Dawson introduces Agent Calley to some regulars as a buddy from the Marine Corps. The agents have to look natural, while staying sharp. Earl Dawson's safety is their primary concern.
We didn't know what was going to happen, so we had to protect Earl.
Agents devise a method for Callie and Dawson to communicate. Either one of them can signal the other by simply going to the restroom where they will meet. 3 hours later, Mulligan finally arrives. He appears to be alone and greets his old friend, who tries to get him to talk about the heist.
I didn't want to be too close. I was across the bar from him. Earl was talking to him and asking him something about, you were involved in that deal down in Laguna Niguel. And old Mulligan said, well, what do you think?
Unable to hear everything they're saying, Callie heads to the restroom. Dawson follows. In the men's room, Callie asks for an update. Dawson explains that Mulligan is anxious to leave and to pick up the car from Dawson's garage.
No problem. Okay.
Callie tells him to go, but instructs Dawson not to get into Mulligan's vehicle.
Whatever you do, don't get inside that car. Okay, don't get in the car.
What Callie doesn't tell him is that agents are in the parking lot, poised to capture Mulligan. Agents finally make the first arrest in the case. As they take Mulligan into custody, they pretend to arrest Dawson as well to mask his involvement with authorities. Mulligan is charged with bank burglary. He does not resist arrest. But when agents try to question him, he refuses to talk. They hope to find answers in the car he was trying to pick up. Agents return to Dawson's house and search the car in the garage.
We found this large motor used as a drill and some other tools that we felt were very much probably the ones that were used in the actual committing of the crime.
Agents recover stolen coins, along with drill bits, acetylene torches, hammers, and other items that could have been used for the Laguna Niguel heist.
Exactly.
And we felt very good about it. Felt we hit pay dirt, we hit a home run.
Evidence technicians ship everything to the FBI lab in Washington, D.C. for processing. As examiners take days to analyze the evidence, field agents follow up on more phone records from the motel. One number belongs to a real estate agency in Laguna Niguel, California. A manager shows agents a condo she rented to suspects Ronald and Harry Barber days before the burglary. The Barbers told her they planned to stay 3 months, but left after only 3 weeks.
No damage, no problems.
She was able to put the day that they got there and the day they left together for us.
This was rented to Ronald Barber.
The men moved out suddenly on March 27th, the day the crime was discovered.
He rented it for 3 months.
The manager gives investigators permission to search the condo, which is within sight of the targeted bank. Agents begin processing the condo for evidence, but initially find nothing.
The entire inside had been wiped clean with some kind of a product.
It seems the suspects were as meticulous there as they had been during the burglary.
There was no evidence recovered at the bank of any value, and therefore, it was not surprising to see a place that had been wiped down. It appears as if they had done everything to ensure there was no evidence. They'd done just about everything right.
But in fact, they made one crucial mistake.
One of the evidence persons went to the dishwasher and opened the dishwasher and realized that it was loaded with dirty dishes and that someone had neglected to push the on button.
The dirty dishes are covered with multiple latent fingerprints. At the FBI lab, examiners recover the prints from the dishes and from the tools agents found in Mulligan's car and match them to 5 of the 7 suspects. Toolmark experts examine the damage on the safe deposit boxes and compare them to the striking point of a snout-nosed hammer from Mulligan's trunk. they report another match. The FBI's case is gaining momentum with good circumstantial evidence and one suspect in custody.
All right.
Now agents must find the other 6 and enough evidence to put them away for good. In Southern California, the FBI connects a team of 7 members of an organized crime ring based in Youngstown, Ohio, to a multi-million-dollar bank burglary when they recover tools used in the heist from the car of suspect Charles Mulligan. Mulligan's arrest puts the investigation into high gear, according to Special Agent Paul Chamberlain.
We did realize that with the arrest of Mulligan, eventually, and shortly thereafter, they were going to figure out that we had figured who this group was. And therefore, we heightened our investigation. We did everything as fast as we possibly could.
But since most of the evidence is circumstantial, the case hinges on the testimony of informant Earl Dawson, a man the FBI must protect.
Go ahead and leave with him, all right? Okay. But whatever you do, whatever happens.
Earl was probably the key witness because the case was kind of dry all along. It's physical evidence. Burglaries are very dry. Earl was able to put all the principals together. They were charged with conspiracy and burglary, and they could put them all together at his house.
Dawson begins receiving threatening phone calls, pressuring him to keep quiet. The caller insists on a face-to-face meeting to discuss the matter. But the FBI learns the meeting may have a more sinister purpose.
We received informant information that a contract was put out on Earl Dawson's life. They were going to come out and attempt to kill Dawson.
Agents instruct Dawson to arrange a meeting at his favorite bar, the Walnut Room. But don't tell him about the planned hit. Agents want to confront the men to send a message to the Youngstown crime ring that the FBI is on to them. Agents are confident that they can protect Dawson as long as he stays in a public place.
I told him, Earl, don't leave this bar. Whatever you do, don't go any place with this. You don't ever leave that room. You stay right in that bar.
As before, if either Dawson or Callie needs to communicate, they will meet in the restroom. The alleged hitmen arrive.
I started buying Earl some pretty heavy drinks. Earl was basically a beer drinker, but you could see they were trying to switch him up to stronger drinks.
When Dawson starts to look concerned, Callie heads to the restroom.
Come on, hurry up. Get him right out of here.
Dawson tells the agent he's scared. The hitmen want him to leave with them.
I said, Earl, you're not leaving this place with him. Believe me, you're not leaving.
Agent Callie tells Dawson to wait in the restroom.
Listen to me. Stay right here, and I'll be right back to get you. All right. Just stay right here. Okay.
Hurry up.
The agents finally approach the men. They say they know what they came to do.
It's time to get out.
Let's go.
To the hitmen, the message is clear. Stay away from Dawson.
They had no problem leaving. I went directly to LAX, where they were escorted by LA's finest to an aircraft, and they left Southern California.
To keep Earl Dawson safe for good, the FBI decides to put him in the witness protection program.
You're gone. You're not going to see.
Agents then go after the remaining burglary suspects. Investigators secure warrants to search their last known addresses. At one house, agents get their first direct link to the burglary. Inside a woman's purse, they find a new $20 bill. They compare it to the list of serial numbers of sequenced bills taken from the bank. It's a match. Special Agent Buddy Nix at the Youngstown FBI office receives information from an informant indicating that these gang members had been known to bury the cash they stole until they could launder it safely.
We identified about a 20 or 25 acre field that we had information that some of the loot was buried in. We dug in that field for days on end, and using picks and shovels and probes, and we finally rented a bulldozer.
The land is adjacent to property owned by James Dincio. After more than a week of digging,
Hey!
agents hit the jackpot. They unearthed several footlockers filled with millions of dollars in cash and bonds that they're able to trace back to the Laguna Niguel bank burglary. Agents then get yet another tip. A neighbor of gang leader Emil Dincio calls police.
A lot of money in there.
He reports finding a cooler buried in his yard. It is filled with nearly $100,000.
Right over there, Mr. Dincio.
Investigators match their serial numbers to those taken from the bank and recover Emil Dincio's prints from the cooler. With more direct evidence against the gang, agents begin making arrests. They first go to Ronald Barber's Southgate, California home. They are armed with search warrants. The only person they find is Ronald's mother. The brothers have disappeared.
No, I don't. I haven't seen him in a few
All
days.
6 remaining suspects are still at large. 3 months after a multi-million-dollar bank burglary, the FBI has solid evidence against 7 members of an organized crime ring. With only one suspect in custody, Charles Mulligan, they set out to arrest the others. Emil Dincio, James Dincio, Charles Brockles, Philip Christopher, Harry Barber, and Ronald Barber. Agents go to Emil Dincio's home near Youngstown, Ohio, and discover he's made no attempt to run.
Because of his attitude and his air of arrogance, Mr. Dincio actually believed he was above the law and was the kind of guy that could make things happen his way.
When agents arrest Dincio, he is carrying $537 in cash stolen from the Laguna Niguel bank.
Come on, we'll call it.
Other gang members are also surprisingly easy to find. Within days, authorities arrest Emil's brother, James Dincio, at an Ohio airport. His carry-on luggage is full of more money from the heist. Agents make their 4th arrest, nabbing Phil Christopher. In his apartment, they discover over $32,000 in stolen cash hidden in his closet. The 3 men arrogantly maintain their innocence and refuse to cooperate.
I got a deal right here.
2 months later, agents nab alarm expert Charles Brockles and get a break. They decide to confront him with what evidence they have and explain they can put him away for decades. They offer him a deal. In exchange for his full cooperation in outlining the burglary group and their crimes, prosecutors will drop all charges against Brockles and place him in the witness protection program. He agrees. Authorities have captured 5 of the 7 suspects. Everyone except the Barber brothers. Authorities extradite them to California and indict them on charges of conspiracy, burglary, and larceny of a federally insured bank. While in jail, Emil Dincio brags about the heist to another inmate and asks for his help in beating the charges.
Don't take care of me.
Mr. Dincio confided in him a great many details that were not in his best interest to confide. He got this other inmate to help him buy an alibi for the time of the bank burglary.
But Dincio has chosen the wrong accomplice.
The other inmate was someone who had had contact with law enforcement on many occasions in the past, and he realized that what he was being told would be of some importance to someone, and he came to us.
Hoping to receive a lenient sentence for his own burglary case, the inmate tells agents of Dincio's confession and the plan to purchase an alibi.
And that was Vegas? Vegas? Well, that's where his alibi is.
The alibi was that Mr. Dincio was going to be in a motel room, a hotel room in Las Vegas with a prostitute and with physical evidence that would show that he was there.
The FBI sets up a sting. Agents give the inmate a contact to offer Dincio. The contact is actually an undercover agent who will provide Dincio's alibi materials. Dincio takes the bait. At the jail's visitation room, he meets the undercover agent who plays the role of a fixer, a criminal expert in solving problems.
Mr. Dincio received what he asked for. He got a registration card, which he registered in on. He put his fingerprint on it. He got a listing of shows, and he got the name of a prostitute who he was with, and that became part of his subsequent defense.
In October 1972, the trials begin in Los Angeles. Emil Dincio offers his false alibi, but the FBI's undercover fixer testifies about the sting. The jury convicts Dincio and the other 4 defendants. They receive sentences ranging from 15 to 20 years. But it is not over. 2 suspects, Harry and Ronald Barber, are still on the run. Within months, the FBI receives a tip that the 2 brothers are living in an apartment in Rochester, New York. Agents respond, and Ronald Barber answers the door. They arrest him and return him to California, where a jury convicts and sentences him to 15 years. He refuses to say where his brother Harry is. For 8 years, Harry remains a fugitive. Then, in 1980, a woman in Brookville, Pennsylvania, contacts the FBI.
I knew him as Brent.
She tells agents that her friend has been living with a man who told her he committed a famous bank burglary in California,
The other day, only because.
What's her name?
and that his real name is Harry Barber.
It's Harry Barber. Worried and nervous.
The woman tells the FBI that in an attempt to lead a legitimate life, the fugitive is working maintenance at a local campground.
Here, you know?
Agents move in and arrest him.
Hey, Barber. Hey, Barber. The FBI, hands in the air. Drop flyers.
Harry Barber is convicted and sentenced to 20 years. Agents can finally close the case on the largest bank burglary in United States history. Authorities believe Emil Dincio and his gang committed more than a dozen bank burglaries, stealing over $30 million altogether. By putting them away, FBI agents from Ohio to California stopped one of the most sophisticated bank burglary rings of all time. Early in the 1980s, a charismatic leader arose in Miami.
Why art thou so far?
He drew the weak, the poor, and the powerless to his side. He promised them a better life, but they had to follow his commands to earn it. His temples soon sprouted across the country as thousands were drawn to his gospel. And those who questioned his doctrine started turning up dead. Local police and the FBI had to stop him.
In Miami, the discovery of a mutilated body sent investigators on the trail of a deadly cult. But agents found a wall of silence around the cult's members. Potential witnesses, terrified of reprisals, refused to talk. I'm Jim Kallstrom, former head of the FBI's New York office. It would take a massive operation involving 120 agents in 7 cities to bring down a deranged fanatic who believed he was God.
Friday, November 13th, 1981, Miami, Florida. On the outskirts of the city, a construction foreman was checking his work site. On a dirt road, he came upon something wrapped in blankets. It was a body. He called police. Detectives from Miami-Dade responded. The foreman said he hadn't seen the body when he passed by earlier that morning.
What's happening? Got a problem here.
The body must have been laid there recently.
What? Not yet.
The detectives inspected the remains. It was an African-American male. He had been decapitated. Detectives found only a set of keys on the victim. There was no wallet or identification.
No? You just...
4 feet away, detectives found the victim's head wrapped in sheets.
How far do you think it's worth?
His fingerprints were taken in the hopes that they might help identify the man. Decapitations are rare, usually performed to hide a murder victim's identity. According to Detective John King, that wasn't the motive here.
There was no attempt to hide or prevent identification because they left the head actually on the scene. Usually, if you're going to try to prevent an identification from being made, you would take other body parts, such as the hands or the head also. It seems like it was more ritualistic than anything else, how he was killed.
The victim's face was badly damaged. Visual identification would be difficult. And unless the man's fingerprints were on record, investigators would have no way of identifying him from his prints. Perhaps the autopsy could tell them more. The medical examiner determined that the victim had been severely beaten before his decapitation. His nose was bloodied, his teeth were broken, and his eyes were swollen shut. His wrists showed ligature marks, and sneaker tread marks on his body suggested he'd been kicked. On the back of his neck, the medical examiner found evidence of repeated blows from a dull blade. It had been a large weapon, perhaps a machete. Comparing the victim's fingerprints wouldn't be easy. In 1981, the database wasn't computerized. Features of the print had to be compared manually against thousands in arrest files. Eventually, one investigator hit the mark. The victim's name was Aston Green, age 25. He had been arrested a month earlier for a misdemeanor driving charge in Fort Lauderdale.
Yeah, we got a match.
They found no history of violent crime.
5'10".
Detectives went to Aston Green's last known address, his mother's house.
My son?
Yes, ma'am. Can you maybe help us out by telling us when
After
the last time
informing
you seen
Mrs. Green of her son's death, detectives asked her about Aston. She said her son had recently turned to religion. He seemed very serious about it. She'd last seen him 2 weeks earlier. She'd prepared a vegetarian meal for him in accordance with his new religious beliefs.
So tell me what's going on with you? What are you doing?
They talked about his conversion. He explained he was a Hebrew Israelite, a Yahweh. She told investigators that his son was committed to his Yahweh beliefs.
That's when we first heard the word Yahweh. I had no idea what the Yahweh was all about. I never heard the name before, knew nothing about them.
Aston Green's mother didn't know his new address, though she did have a phone number.
This is the number that he gave me the last time I saw him.
She said he had a housemate but didn't know his name. From the phone number, detectives determined Green's new address, about 12 miles from downtown Miami. Due to the violent nature of the murder, they called for backup before approaching the house. No one answered.
Dade County Police, open up!
Perhaps Green's housemate had been harmed too. Detectives decided to enter the house. The key they found in Green's pocket fit the lock.
Dade County Police!
We entered the house thinking that hopefully we wouldn't find any other bodies, but we went in to check it out. We found a number of items of a religious nature, textbooks, workbooks, a lot of literature. It turned out that it was from the Hebrew Israelite religion.
There was no sign of the housemaid.
We also found a machete that was tucked to the side of one of the sofas in the residence. We immediately became interested in the machete because that could be a weapon to decapitate somebody.
The machete appeared to be clean. Investigators continued their search. By the door, they found a phone number. They traced it to a house 2 miles away.
Hi, I'm Detective Christopher. This is Detective King. Can we talk to you for a few minutes?
At the house, the detectives talked with a group of Hebrew Israelites.
I'm sorry to have to inform you, but
Among them was Aston Green's housemate, Carlton Carey. All of them knew Green through the Yahweh Temple. They told investigators that Green, like themselves, had grown disillusioned with the rigid social doctrine of the temple.
can you tell me something about I've seen him in the temple, but I don't know.
To them, adherence to the temple's leader was at too high a price.
We're just trying to get as much information.
Their colored turbans signified their desire to break away from it.
It makes this much easier on us.
We spoke to them briefly. We got a little bit of background information on the temple and what it was all about. And we asked them to respond to the homicide office so that we could take statements and in-depth interviews with them about what happened and what they knew.
Several suggested that the killers were probably zealous members of the Yahweh Temple who wanted to silence those who questioned the doctrine. Most were afraid to say more, especially to police. They were already branded dissenters. They feared any further disobedience could be punished by death.
Well, all the people that we spoke to perceived a great deal of danger because of threats that had been made to them, both on the phone and by word of mouth from other members that were still in the organization. They were concerned for their safety, and the death of Aston Green certainly confirmed this.
The next day, Green's housemates came to the police station to talk. Despite the threat, Carlton Carey and his wife wanted to help. His wife was interviewed in a separate room at the station.
Yeah.
Carey said that he and Green had embraced the temple until recently when its leader, Hulan Mitchell, started calling himself the true Messiah.
Shared, who'd you share it with?
The charismatic leader of the temple, Hulan Mitchell, believed that blacks were descended from the lost Hebrew tribe of Judah. As followers of Mitchell, members abandoned their given names. They took a biblical first name and adopted the last name of Israel. Mitchell did not allow dissent among his followers. Mitchell eventually changed his name to Yahweh ben Yahweh,
Some things I wasn't comfortable with.
which means God, Son of God.
In fact, during the interview we had with him, he referred to Hulan as not the Messiah, but a crook and a swindler, which was his characterization of Hulan Mitchell at that time.
Carey still had reservations about talking to police. Detectives offered to escort him home.
Gentlemen, a ride home?
That's okay. I have a way home. I'm fine.
All right.
He declined, opting to leave with his wife alone.
When they left the homicide office that night, they didn't want to be escorted because any police being with them would be further attraction to anybody that saw them, and they were concerned about being seen with anybody. They didn't want us to escort them home.
Carey and his wife took a winding route home to make sure no one had followed them. They never suspected someone to be waiting inside. As Miami police investigated the beheading of a dissident member of a religious group, 2 informants were ambushed in their home. Carlton Carey had been shot to death. His wife, Mildred Banks, had also been shot, then her throat was slashed. She barely clung to life. Like the beheading victim, the 2 were dissident members of the Hebrew Israelites. At the scene, police found a bloodied machete. Detective John King believed a similar weapon had been used in the earlier beheading.
The fact that a machete was actually used in an attempt on Mildred's life certainly give more credence to the belief that the Hebrew Israelites were involved in it.
Detectives learned that many members of the Hebrew Israelite movement owned machetes. Police searched the house. Nothing found at the scene indicated who was responsible for the assault. Whoever the killers were, they had cut the phone line and left no physical trace of themselves behind. Detectives' only hope was Mildred Banks. If doctors could save her, perhaps she could name her attackers.
Mildred was very seriously injured as a result of the attack on her. She was shot in the chest, the bullet was still in her, and she had a deep gash to the left side of her neck. She was given a very low probability of surviving those injuries.
Police waited several days to see if she would survive surgery. Without her description of events, investigators had little hope of solving the case. Mildred Banks pulled through. When she was conscious, investigators visited her in the recovery room. Though critically wounded, she was able to answer questions from the police. She said that she and her husband had driven by their house several times to be sure no one had followed them. They saw no one, so they went inside. She was certain that her attackers were Yahwehs, sent because they had spoken to police that day. She never saw their faces.
We were concerned that they may actually make an attempt on her at the hospital, so we posted 2 police officers at all times with her throughout her stay at the hospital. They were there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, for approximately 1 month.
The message of this most recent attack was clear to dissenting members of the Yahweh Temple. Those who spoke out or cooperated with police would suffer reprisals.
After the homicide of Carlton Carey, we were not able to locate any of the former members that had split from the temple. They had fled in different directions. They became scared and they just left.
Detective King needed to learn more about the Yahweh organization. He and his partner visited its Miami temple.
We tried interviewing people and we really got nowhere. Every time we spoke to somebody, it was praise Yahweh or, see the public information office at the temple.
Through a spokesperson, Hulon Mitchell, the Yahweh leader, claimed to know nothing about the murders and offered no help. Suspecting he knew more, investigators began surveillance on the Yahweh enterprise.
The surveillance was sort of a constant rolling type surveillance where you drive by, write down some tag numbers, but to actually set off and watch the place, it was impossible because at all times there were guards standing outside the temple watching the front door.
Detectives did learn that the Yahweh organization was extensive. In Florida and in 13 other states, the Yahwehs owned real estate, buses, and vehicles that the leader claimed totaled nearly $50 million. Some said membership topped 12,000 in Florida alone.
Most of these people are hard-working professionals that really didn't believe in a lot of what Hulon Mitchell was teaching. Certainly they were not racist to the level that he was, and they were not believing much of what he was telling them about him being the Messiah. They did, however, believe much of what the religion itself taught, surrounding Judaism and the Muslim religion.
Since the Yahweh organization spanned several states, the FBI began investigating. Supervisory Special Agent Herbert Cousins was assigned as case agent. He believed the organization demonstrated elements of domestic terrorism.
Domestic terrorism investigations are conducted in a group of individuals who engage in criminal activities to further their social or political goal.
Local and federal investigators looked deeper into the organization.
Why art thou so far from helping me?
Hulon Mitchell invited the homeless, the destitute, and the ex-con to join his Hebrew Israelites.
The Lord shall swallow them up.
People with no job or family found a place to belong, receiving food, shelter, and employment. This kindness didn't reflect Mitchell's underlying mission. He taught that blacks, as the true Jewish people, had a crucial role. He told his followers that their duty was to bring about heaven on earth by destroying the white oppressors. To his most avid followers, Yahweh ben Yahweh was the Messiah, and everything they had belonged to him, including their labor. To raise revenue, the Yahwehs manufactured and packaged their own hair care products, tonics, beverages, t-shirts, wine, and more. The merchandise was shipped to his network of temples all over the country. Yahweh required his members to reach certain income goals for their temple by selling these wares. In turn, the temple fed and sheltered them, and even educated their children. Despite the allegations of violence and his thinly veiled message of hate, Mitchell's temple continued to prosper and spread. According to Assistant U.S. Attorney Richard Scruggs, the general public was unclear about Mitchell's true intentions.
The Yahwehs in the early 80s had been amassing power and property, and they had a kind of a dual reputation. People saw them as a somewhat scary group that they knew were preaching hatred and violence, but at the same time, they outwardly appeared to be quiet, well-behaved, mannered, and they would go in and buy these properties in distressed neighborhoods and actually clean them up.
Not everyone welcomed their presence in the neighborhood. In May 1986, people in Delray, Florida drove them out. At around 2 a.m. the same night, the neighborhood was firebombed. The fire destroyed the entire block and injured 1 adult and 3 children, including a 9-month-old infant. Police suspected Yahweh members were responsible. One officer recalled an incident that happened in the area about an hour before the bombing. While cruising the neighborhood, he spotted some men dressed in black standing near a van. The area reeked of gasoline. The men seemed suspicious, but they weren't doing anything illegal. They claimed they were having engine trouble. He took down the license plate number and left. Police determined that the van was registered to an elder at the Yahweh Temple. Hulan Mitchell denied any involvement in the firebombing attack. One of his followers was more cooperative.
We were able to develop an informant who actually walked into the FBI, who provided information regarding the group.
The informant confirmed investigators' suspicions that Mitchell's henchmen were responsible for the firebombing. But he had no direct evidence. He then gave agents information about another crime. He confessed that he had participated in the slaying of Aston Green, the man found beheaded on a dirt road. He said that the dead man had been considered a threat since he openly questioned Hulan Mitchell's authority. Green was abducted from the temple and severely beaten.
All right, head back to the van. Get back to the second.
The informant drove him there, and another member carried out Mitchell's order to behead him.
All right, let's go, let's go! Get out of here, let's go!
Why should we believe?
The information was crucial but limited. Investigators still had no physical evidence tying Hulan Mitchell to Green's murder. Authorities would have to carefully build trust among the ex-members. Detective John King re-interviewed Mildred Banks, the woman who had been ambushed in her home.
In following up from the information with Woodside, I made contact with Mildred Banks, and she turned me on to an individual that was a former member of the organization that might be able to assist me. I subsequently made contact with that person, who took me around to a number of locations where former members resided.
As investigators continued their search for a witness courageous enough to come forward, Miami police received more disturbing news. A murder victim was found in his car with both ears cut off. Police wondered if this ritualistic killing could be related to the machete attacks. In September of 1986, as FBI and Miami police investigated the leader of the Yahwehs, Hulan Mitchell, police responded to another bizarre murder. 61-year-old Raymond Kelly was found stabbed to death in his vehicle. Both ears had been severed. One was recovered at the scene. Police believe the killer took the other. Metro-Dade Homicide Lieutenant Rex Remley's squad worked the case.
In the Dade County area, we had experienced a number of cases in which victims had been murdered and there was an ear missing. In several of those cases, it appeared that it may be the same perpetrator that had committed the crime.
To investigators, it looked as if Kelly had been drinking just prior to his death. Detectives collected several sets of prints from the vehicle. But what investigators found missing from the car held greater importance. According to the victim's wife, he always kept a .38 revolver in his glove compartment. Now it was gone. The gun's serial number was entered into the National Crime Information Computer. If the gun turned up anywhere in the country, Miami-Dade police would be notified. Weeks later, police in Opa-locka, a suburb of Miami, responded to emergency calls from residents of an apartment complex.
It was an apartment complex that had recently been taken under siege, for lack of a better term, by the Yahwehs.
Tenants who lived there called it the Dirt Road Apartments. A low-income housing project. Some local residents considered it an eyesore. Many were delighted when the Yahweh leader Hulan Mitchell bought the property. Dirt Road residents were not.
Unfortunately for the residents, their idea of taking the building over was to actually move the residents out, and sometimes, according to the residents, that was by force, where the Yahwehs would actually come into their apartments and remove furniture and belongings while the people objected but had no real way to stop these individuals.
The Yahweh's strong-arm eviction efforts made the TV news. One resident, Anthony Brown, was particularly outspoken.
I'm gonna stay here until I get eviction notice. I don't care what they say. I do, because they ain't going in. Just simple as that.
He cursed the Yahweh's leader, Hulan Mitchell.
Stand around and look.
Investigators knew that Mitchell didn't tolerate public criticism.
Yahweh.
Witnesses told police that tensions at the apartments continued after night fell. That evening, violence erupted and 2 men were killed. Police responded to the double murder. They chased one of 2 suspects in the shooting.
Get your hands up!
A canine unit tracked down the man. The suspect carried nothing in his pockets except 2 bullets.
We got the bullets out of his left pocket.
Nearby, police recovered a .38 caliber revolver. It was not the murder weapon. Police cross-checked its serial number in the crime computer but found no match.
Your room right here. Just keep an eye on you for this.
The suspect was arrested and taken to the Opa-locka police station. Metro-Dade Lieutenant Rex Remley interviewed him there.
I was just trying to get his basic information, was that he had told me that he was Nehariah Israel, and when I asked him about his age, he told me that he was over 400 years old. So that's the type of individual that I was dealing with.
The name he gave was a Yahweh name, and police found Yahweh clothing in the car he had used to flee. Police suspected that he had been sent to silence those who had spoken out against the Yahwehs. A fingerprint match revealed that the suspect's real name was Robert Rosier. He had spent time in prison for burglary and car theft. Lieutenant Remley also learned that he was a former football player in the National Football League.
He then began to have problems after he had left his football career. He had a history that went from crimes in Maryland to crimes in San Francisco area to crimes in Dade County. So he had an extensive past.
Rosier's arrest marked the first time an active member of Hulan Mitchell's group was caught at a crime scene. Though they could only charge Rosier with loitering and prowling, authorities suspected he was guilty of much more. Miami police looked for more information from residents who lived nearby the complex. Most residents were reluctant, but several came forward.
We were able to determine that Mr. Rosier had in fact been involved in chasing Mr. Brown across the field. He was present, it was our feeling, when the shots were fired where Mr. Brown was killed, and that he had also attempted to flee from the scene. He was charged that morning with the murder of Mr. Brown.
Lieutenant Remley still wondered about the handgun found at the time of Rosier's arrest. It was a .38 revolver, the same type missing from the car of murder victim Raymond Kelly. Though a computer check failed to match the guns, Lieutenant Remley pulled Raymond Kelly's file just to be sure.
There had to be more of a story to this gun. And I finally found the documents that had been provided by the family that showed the serial number of this gun. When I checked it, I was amazed to see that it was the exact same gun that we had impounded at Opelika that night. Unfortunately, when the gun had been entered into the computer, one of the digits had been displaced in some way, and therefore when we ran the gun found at the scene of the murder in Opelika, it did not show as being Raymond Kelly's stolen weapon.
Robert Rosier was now connected to the murder of Raymond Kelly. Prints lifted from Kelly's vehicle matched Rosier's. His fingerprint was found at another slashed-ear murder as well. Investigators had enough evidence to charge him with 2 slashed-ear murders and the double murder at the Dirt Road Apartments. Rosier found himself facing 4 first-degree murder charges, and very likely, the death penalty. As Miami investigators tried to close in on Yahweh leader Hulan Mitchell, they arrested a man suspected of being one of Mitchell's enforcers. Robert Rosier sat behind bars facing 4 capital murder charges. Investigators hoped Rosier would turn on the leader. The Yahwehs and their organization became the target of public scrutiny. Hulan Mitchell, their leader, refused to meet the press. He stayed hidden behind his followers, who passed out pamphlets explaining that Rosier had been framed. The bad publicity could destroy all that Mitchell had built. He hired a high-priced attorney and public relations expert. It was Mitchell's first step in creating a new image for his organization.
Quickly as possible.
What the hell do you want? I'm here to help you.
Mitchell offered the attorney's legal help to Rosier.
Make this mess go away.
Rosier quickly realized that the attorney was there to protect the interests of Hulan Mitchell, not Rosier's.
Just talk to me.
But Rosier still refused to turn on the leader of the Yahwehs. Lieutenant Rex Remley recalls that the media attention prompted other insiders to talk.
The media brought out different stories about people that had been inside the organization who wanted to speak about what had occurred. And it also brought other people to law enforcement who, for maybe the first time, realized that there was a significant reason at this point that people were being killed, and it was time to come forward and tell what you knew.
Investigators got a call from Oklahoma. One of Hulan Mitchell's relatives wanted to talk. She told them she'd witnessed a martial arts expert from New Orleans beaten to death by Yahwehs in 1983. She said Mitchell had ordered the beating. The young man's name was Leonard Dupree. Dupree was killed because Hulan Mitchell believed the man had been disrespectful.
He changed his name.
Detectives tracked down Dupree's mother in New Orleans.
Hello, my name's Rex Rumley.
She confirmed that Leonard was a martial arts expert and had left home in 1983 to join the Yahwehs. But without a body or other evidence, investigators couldn't arrest Mitchell. While investigators were learning about Hulan Mitchell's dark secrets, he was opening his temple to the public.
Water coolers down the hall. And you're off.
To improve its image, Mitchell encouraged the most avid followers to take work in the community at large. But one avid member was beginning to change his mind about the leader he had followed so closely. For weeks, Robert Rosier sat behind bars, watching Hulan Mitchell distance himself further and further from the murder suspect. Then, in June of 1987, Mitchell formally excommunicated Robert Rosier on live TV. With the symbolic stroke of a marker, Mitchell had separated himself from Rosier permanently. Rosier had no one left to protect but himself. He decided to begin working with the FBI. It was the break agents were hoping for. Just after his transfer to federal prison, Rosier told investigators that he knew of at least 20 murders across the country that had been ordered by the Yahweh leader Hulan Mitchell. To agents, it was clear that Mitchell hid behind organized religion as a front for organized crime.
Why?
Rosier also explained why he and another man killed Anthony Brown and Rudy Broussard at the apartments in Opelika. For Special Agent Herbert Cousins, it confirmed what he already suspected.
Brown and Broussard were executed. That's pretty much what happened. They resisted being evicted from their homes, and they spoke out on TV against the Yahwehs, and we were told that was the reason why they were murdered.
Rosier also confessed to the murder of Raymond Kelly and another man whose ears had been cut off. Rosier told agents that the Yahweh leader directed him to kill as many white devils as possible and to return with an ear as proof. With Rosier, the FBI had a witness who could connect Hulan Mitchell to deadly violence. But because he was a killer himself, Rosier wasn't an ideal prosecution witness. U.S. Attorney Richard Scruggs needed to find others willing to corroborate Rosier's stories.
We just started traveling all over the country, tracking down these individuals, trying to convince them to testify and to cooperate. One of the questions that we would get early on from the witnesses or from the prospective witnesses was, will I be at risk if I testify? Will something happen to me? Am I likely to get killed? It's the only time in my 22 years of experience that I have told people, because I felt like I had to tell them, is that yes, there is a chance that you will suffer retribution.
Hulan Mitchell fought the investigation by continuing to polish his public image.
I'd like everybody to give a nice warm welcome.
He continued to turn distressed buildings into gleaming properties.
The opening of the store.
As Yahweh ben Yahweh, he toned down his anti-white message and made large contributions to popular causes.
think it'll make the area a better place? Watching Yahweh become stronger and stronger, and watching him become more and more accepted by the community, I, as well as all of the investigators, felt he had to be stopped.
Hulan Mitchell became a bigger-than-life public figure, enjoying all the legitimacy money could buy. He seemed unstoppable. After almost a decade of investigation, the FBI still lacked enough evidence to arrest self-proclaimed Messiah, Hulan Mitchell. Intimidation and murder had silenced most who dared to speak out against him. Assistant U.S. Attorney Richard Scruggs had a difficult time persuading members to overcome their fear.
I prayed with people, I begged people, I cajoled people, I urged them to do the moral thing, I urged them to do the ethical thing, I urged them to fight a false religion, and basically used every means I had available to me to convince people to cooperate.
Those bold enough to stand up against Hulan Mitchell, the man who called himself the Son of God, were placed under witness protection.
Do hereby proclaim Sunday, October 2nd, 1990, as Yahweh ben Yahweh Day.
As Mitchell continued to thwart the investigation privately, publicly, his legitimacy grew as Yahweh ben Yahweh.
He's having photo op sessions with the mayor. The mayor proclaimed Yahweh ben Yahweh Day, and there are banners on the streets saying, proclaiming Yahweh ben Yahweh Day.
In October 1990, despite his public successes, the FBI filed sealed arrest warrants for him and a dozen of his followers. They were kept secret to allow the FBI a month to plan the arrest. Agents dubbed the plan Operation Jericho. Special Agent Herbert Cousins knew it would be dangerous to take Yahweh ben Yahweh in Miami, since he was at the height of his popularity there.
The main issue for law enforcement was safety. The safety of the individuals, the law enforcement members involved in the arrest, and also the safety of innocent individuals and the safety of Yahweh members, including Yahweh ben Yahweh.
Fortunately, Mitchell and others named in the indictment were scheduled to embark on a multi-city tour. Yahweh ben Yahweh's first stop would be in New Orleans. The main arrest team would seize him at his hotel. Once he was in custody, teams in 6 other cities would capture his henchmen across the South.
There were a number of arrest teams in different cities, several cities: Atlanta, North Carolina, New Orleans, Miami. I was sent to New Orleans to assist the New Orleans division with the arrest of Yahweh ben Yahweh.
On November 6, 1990, Hulan Mitchell arrived at the Monteleone Hotel in New Orleans. The FBI was already there.
The meeting went well.
Right.
To track Mitchell's movements, undercover agents were posted on every floor.
They're coming up now. They're coming up.
Throughout the South, teams took their positions outside Yahweh temples and waited for orders from Miami. Success depended on an unbroken flow of communication. The agents in Miami coordinated the entire operation.
Everybody's ready to go.
At 3 a.m., everyone was in place. They gave New Orleans the go-ahead. Agents in the hotel called Mitchell's room.
The first instruction was that he instruct his bodyguard to turn himself into the agents who were waiting down the hall.
bodyguard?
The second instruction was that he come out with his hands up and that he walk slowly down the hall.
Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go.
Agents didn't know if Mitchell or his bodyguards were carrying weapons.
Let me see your hands.
Finally, their main suspect emerged.
Hands on your head. And on your knees.
They sent word to Miami.
You're under arrest.
Mitchell was captured.
Commit murder.
Go. You gotta go.
The other teams swarmed in, arresting the criminal members of Mitchell's temple.
Get down! Down! Get out! Next passenger! Open the side door! Step to the rear of the van!
In a matter of minutes, scores of agents mobilized to capture a dozen suspects across hundreds of miles.
Make a form of line. Stand beside each other.
No one was hurt. We accomplished our goal. We arrested as many individuals as we could identify during the operation, and that's why I believe it was very successful.
Hulan Mitchell was charged with extortion, conspiracy, and murder in aid of racketeering. Prosecutor Scruggs believed he was still dangerous.
We found out that there was actually a hit team of 5 individuals who were stalking us, trying to find out where we were so that they could kill us upon the orders of Yahweh ben Yahweh.
At trial, his intimidation even penetrated the jury.
We knew there were serious problems. We knew people were scared. Several jurors actually got dismissed prior to deliberations because they were scared to go back and deliberate.
Perhaps it was fear that caused what prosecutors considered only a partial victory. In May 1992, Hulan Mitchell and 6 of his more violent followers were found guilty of conspiracy. But Mitchell himself received only 18 years in a maximum security federal prison. It had been a difficult case for investigators.
He found a successful philosophy that people would flock to and actually start joining and pledge their allegiance to him. And I think the more power he obtained, the more influence he obtained over his followers, that he ultimately lost control of himself. And he believed in his own mind he could do anything, even order life and death.
Hulan Mitchell is locked away, his murderous actions halted by those who saw through his false gospel. A prominent couple, respected in the community, are stabbed to death in their own home. Nothing about the case makes sense. Not the crime scene, the motive, or even the forensic evidence. Stabbing is a personal crime. There's often a relationship between the victim and the killer. A task force of agents and police quickly learn nothing about this case is usual.
Edna, New Hampshire is a small town. It's the kind of place where people trust their neighbors and leave their doors unlocked. A double murder shattered that trust and left the entire community terrified. I'm Jim Kallstrom, former head of the FBI's New York office. The FBI and local police work day and night trying to find a motive for the brutal crime.
January 27th, 2001, Etna, Vermont. At 6:30 p.m., Carol Johnson stops by the home of her friend Suzanne and Half Zantop. Carol's supposed to have dinner with the couple.
Suzanne?
It's not like them to forget a dinner engagement.
I'm here. Anybody home?
In the study, she makes a gruesome discovery. The room is in shambles. The friends are on the floor. Blood is everywhere. Seven minutes after receiving the dispatch, the Hanover police are on the scene. Eric Bates is a detective with the Hanover Police Department.
And I went into the door.
By the time I got there, some of the information had been relayed as to the nature of what had happened. That there were at least 2 bodies.
Carol tells police that the victims were both prominent professors at nearby Dartmouth College. Half Zantop was an earth sciences professor. His wife Suzanne was the chair of the German Studies program. Carol is their colleague. They had invited her for dinner at 6:30 that evening.
Great, good to see you guys. See you tonight.
The Zantop house was extremely neat, orderly, clean. Nothing was out of place. There was a 2-level home, no basement. Check upstairs. The house hadn't been secured, and so that's when myself and one of the patrol sergeants went through the house and systematically cleared the house to make sure that the killers weren't still in the house for some reason. I can tell you I've never seen anything as horrific as the scene itself in the study of the Zantop home. Even with my military experience then and even now, nothing would compare to the scene that night. It was potentially a murder-suicide. And if not, and it was a double homicide, it appeared to me as though they were preparing a light meal. It was my impression that they were actually preparing a lunch and not a dinner.
Although the bodies were discovered at dinner time, Bates suspects the Zantops died early that afternoon before lunch, and that the couple has been dead for several hours.
There were so many valuables in that house that we wouldn't have even begun to know what was missing. We discovered some blood droppings and a bloody boot print, what appeared to be a boot print anyway, on the floor. It was right next to the Zantop's fireplace, and it's a wood fireplace.
Bates' first concern is to preserve the evidence.
The closest thing that was nearby was some kindling wood, some small kindling. So I basically cordoned off each blood dropping or footprint that I could find in hopes that later they could be analyzed.
The Hanover Police is a small-town department. They have limited resources. They'll need all the help they can get if they're going to solve this terrifying and puzzling crime. Because of the size of the Hanover PD, the Major Crimes Unit of the New Hampshire State Police comes in to investigate the murder.
We're one of the few departments that have a full-time homicide unit.
Sergeant Mark Mudgett is the lead investigator with the Major Crimes Unit of the New Hampshire State Police.
Sergeant Mudgett, we have probably a lot more experience than a lot of the local departments in being able to handle investigations of this magnitude.
All right, guys, here's the...
The investigators analyze the study, the primary crime scene.
As you look at the crime scene, if you're patient enough and you're willing to look, stop, and listen and take in all that information, positioning of the bodies, the physical evidence located inside that room, if you listen, that body will speak to you. It will tell you what happened. It will give you clues as to how it happened. It will tell you potentially who may have committed this particular crime.
Suzanne Zantop's body was lying near the door of the study. Her husband's body was further in the room. An upturned chair was at his feet, and 2 other chairs were set up near the desk. It looked like a conversation had taken place in the room. Near the 2 chairs, police make a startling discovery.
Got something under here.
As we started to process the inside of the study area, we immediately came across 2 black tactical-style knife sheaths. These knife sheaths were approximately 9 to 10 inches in length. Both of them were identical.
Police assume the missing knives were used to kill the Xantops. They could be the murder weapons, and 2 murder weapons could mean 2 killers. In the living room, they follow the blood trail leading from the study to the front door. Tom Pfeiffer is the director of the New Hampshire State Police Forensic Laboratory. He is relieved to see that the blood evidence has been carefully preserved.
This is a highly unusual and actually some of the best part of preserving the crime scene that could have occurred. This eliminated people entering the crime scene from actually stepping and obliterating or contaminating the footwear impression evidence.
Sergeant Mudgett notes that the front door is unlocked. There is no sign of forced entry into the house. Right now, all the investigators have are a few answers and a growing list of questions.
Did they invite the perpetrator or perpetrators into this? Or the questions that continue to go through your mind are, is this somebody that's known to the Xantops?
Near the fireplace, Pfeiffer finds the bloody boot print.
I wanted to enhance those impressions for better comparison purposes. I processed those with a blood enhancement reagent referred to as leuco crystal violet, or LCV. Upon application of the LCV, the impression was further enhanced to the point where it was going to be able to be used in identification purposes.
Once a suspect is in custody, the boot print could be important evidence for prosecutors. In 2001, Mike Delaney was the Assistant Attorney General for the Homicide Unit of the New Hampshire Attorney General's Office.
In New Hampshire, anytime a suspicious death is discovered, there's an immediate notification to prosecutors who are immediately dispatched to the scene to help the investigators with the case. In this case, our victims were loved and esteemed professors from an Ivy League college campus, and that made this case very unique. It was clear that the level of violence that had been inflicted on the Xantops was over and above anything that was necessary for the purpose of carrying out a crime, including a potential killing. In that regard, it had the hallmarks of a crime of passion, of somebody that acted out with a level of violence that was personal in nature.
In addition to the unlocked door, the extreme violence of the murders, it appears to be what investigators call overkill, is more evidence that the Xantops might have known their killers. If the killers knew their victims, then police are looking for someone who hated the Xantops enough to brutally stab them to death. Whoever committed this crime is a cold-blooded killer and must be stopped. But police must find them first. To do that, they need a motive, something to explain this heinous crime. In Etna, Vermont, 2 prominent professors are murdered, stabbed to death in their own home. Investigators suspect whoever killed the Xantops will try to leave town as soon as possible. They check the local airport, the bus station, and finally a local cab company.
How about that right there?
According to the dispatcher, one of the drivers picked up a local college student the night of January 27th. It was late, after midnight. The student was going to Manchester Airport. Investigators quickly established the student flew home due to a family emergency. other leads, they assume the killers either left town by car or are still somewhere in the area. By morning, the double homicide is headline news. The Xantops were prominent citizens. According to the medical examiner's office, wounds on the Xantop's body are consistent with a tactical combat knife. Mark Mudgett is assistant commander of the Major Crime Unit for the New Hampshire State Police.
Based on the injuries that we found on Health and Susanna at the time of autopsy, they had both sustained numerous stab wounds. Susanna had been stabbed 11 times and Health had been stabbed 10 times in various portions of their body. Their throats had been cut. Stabbing is a very personal crime. It's not something that you can accomplish at a distance of 12, 13, 14 feet like you can with a firearm. A stabbing is something that's a very personal crime. You have to get up close to the individual to be able to affect the damage that the offender wants to affect on these people.
Once again, the evidence suggests the Xantops knew their killers. The knife sheaths are now investigators' best clue to finding them. Tom Pfeiffer is the director of the New Hampshire State Police Forensic Lab.
There were fingerprints developed on the back of one of the knife sheaths left in the Xantop study. We then searched those fingerprints through the fingerprint identification system in our laboratory.
Investigators searched the NCIS database, comparing fingerprints found on the knife sheaths to a database containing the fingerprints of known offenders. They can't find a match.
The fact that we did not receive a match back from the fingerprint search leads us to several different conclusions. One, the person is not in the database, which means they haven't been arrested. Two, the fingerprints were such a quality that was not able to make a match with the computer. Or three, the person could have been arrested, however, the fingerprints, for some reason or another, did not make it into the database.
Police turned to their next best clue, a bloody boot print found at the scene.
We had to collect all the footwear evidence from everyone that entered the scene. There were about 14 pairs of footwear of personnel that had been into the crime scene. We collected all those pieces of footwear from the neighbors to the EMTs to the medical examiner to our own Attorney General's office.
Good impression of that. Great impression.
The forensics lab is able to eliminate all 14 pairs of footwear. Pfeiffer suspects the boot print belongs to one of the killers.
I scanned a photograph of this particular footwear impression at the crime scene, emailed that image down to the FBI laboratory in their footwear section, asked them to do a search of their database that contains thousands of outsole pattern designs.
The FBI lab tells Pfeiffer that the footwear impression was made by an upscale brand of hiking boots. It's a good clue, but until investigators have a suspect, it's meaningless.
There's an awful lot of information that has to be processed once you take part in processing the crime scene and the physical evidence. That's just one aspect of this investigation, or any investigation. And now you have to start seeking out persons for information.
In this case, that was quite a challenge. Everyone knew Hoff and Susanna Xantop. They had extensive faculty connections. They had hundreds of students that were in classes with them.
Investigators head to the college where the Xantops work to learn all they can about their victims.
So realistically, our investigation just blew up in 360 degrees. You had to just start putting your feelers out. You had to start generating leads. You had to start interviewing a lot of people on campus, off campus, relatives, neighbors.
Notifications with anyone?
Well, maybe about a couple of days ago.
During the course of the interviews that we were doing on campus, we generated a person of interest who was a student of Hal Xantops.
Can you tell me what that was about?
No, because they spoke Spanish.
According to a student, Half Xantop argued with one of his students just days before he was murdered.
Pretty much gonna wrap it up for today. Represal, sí. Yo
Yo necesito hablar para tú, para mi clave en mi clase de... Una tarea aquí. Yo necesito para mi graduación.
Police question the student.
It was reported to us that he had a extensive knife collection.
What kind of knives are they? They're collector's items.
When we conducted the actual interview with the individual, we also noted that he had sustained a recent abrasion to his head. So we were hoping that we were, onto something.
Why do you want to see my hand? Because I want to see your hand.
The student voluntarily submits to questioning. He tells police he'd been friendly with Half Xantop ever since he took the professor's earth science class. He explains he was just joking around with Professor Xantop.
We were laughing in Spanish.
Investigators look into the student's background, but he has a solid alibi on the day of the murders. He could not have killed the Xantops. Police also investigate the Xantops' relationships with their colleagues.
Popular professors on the campus.
On campus, they learn that Half Xantop had recently been given a position instead of another professor.
Recently, in the last.
We had to travel out to where the gentleman lived in the western part of the United States to interview him because he had come and gone from the Hanover area out about the time that the homicide had occurred or shortly thereafter.
The professor's car is impounded. There appear to be bloodstains in the trunk. Analysis reveals that the stains are not blood. According to the owner of the vehicle, they were made by stew that spilled in the trunk. While investigators follow every lead, 2 detectives work to try and find the murder weapons. They visit retail stores in the area that specialize in knives.
The scabbards that we had, the knife sheaths that we had, were produced for one type of blade, one type of knife. The blade itself is really a paramilitary or a tactical type of tool. Our armed forces use them. A lot of police agencies utilize them. This is not something that is a tool that's going to be used by the average hiker or the average individual.
6 days after the killings, the knife manufacturer supplies New Hampshire authorities with a list of all authorized retailers and distributors in the country, broken down by state. In addition, there are hundreds of dealers nationwide that sell the knives on the internet.
Based on the research we did with the manufacturer, we were able to determine that we were going to have to track down approximately 5,000 blades and knives, scabbards, that were produced and distributed worldwide. We didn't have a considerable amount of manpower to be able to do that.
The investigators need help and call in the FBI. At the time, Brian Fitzell was a special agent assigned to the Bedford, New Hampshire resident agency of the FBI.
Just give me the FBI office.
They knew that it would encompass different states and even international because of the nationality of the Xantops. So they knew that they'd be reaching well outside of the New Hampshire borders and wanted us to be able to help with those kind of leads.
Along with state and local police, the FBI joins the Hanover Task Force.
This was front page news, and consistently the state police, the attorney general, was asking anyone with information, please call. And the volume of leads that were coming in were tremendous. You know, phone calls, people calling in with information.
The FBI deploys Rapid Start, a computer system. It is a database designed to track hundreds or even thousands of leads.
In any type of investigation, you need to keep your peripheral vision open. You don't want to miss anything. If you're too quick to focus in on one area, you start to disregard other telltale signs or other signs that you may or may not be on the right track.
As investigators struggle to make sense of their case, all over the country, media coverage of the case explodes. For law enforcement, the pressure is on to find a pair of brutal killers. In New Hampshire, 2 Ivy League professors have been brutally murdered in their own home. Investigators review the evidence again.
but again, it's sloppy.
They're trying to determine if the Xantops were targeted. It doesn't appear that they were. A knife is too clumsy a murder weapon for an assassination. Also, the killers made amateurish mistakes. If the murder had been planned, why would they leave behind the knife sheaths, a footprint, and even a fingerprint? Ironically, despite the evidence found at the scene, they're beginning to question whether the Xantops had any connection to their killers at all. Supervisory Special Agent Brian Fitzell.
It was looking, as this progressed more and more, that it was not an acquaintance that committed these acts.
Investigators can also rule out robbery. According to the initial investigation, nothing was taken from the house.
It was a murder scene that didn't match a lot of the known or the experience that most of these investigators had worked many homicides. It didn't fit into their normal model. It wasn't apparent that there was any motive other than the killing itself. It was as if these people were killed and the culprits ran right out the door.
Agents contact the FBI's Critical Incident Response Group in Quantico, Virginia. Investigators want to understand how these killers' minds work. They turn to the profilers.
They'll actually see hundreds of homicide cases during a year, and so they actually develop an expertise, and they can see patterns because they see so many cases.
Supervisory Special Agent Jim Fitzgerald is a criminal investigative analyst, a profiler. He finds the case unusual.
We have two low-risk victims who are killed in their own house in broad daylight on a Saturday, nonetheless, when other people ostensibly in the neighborhood are home.
This is the crime scene. It appears that everything
Fitzgerald notes that the position of the chairs makes it appear as if an impromptu conference was going on prior to the murders.
The only thing that's in the doorway.
It was agreed upon with the investigators in the room and myself that it looks like there may have been at least several minutes in which there was some sort of conversation between Hoff and one or both of the offenders. It seems that the offender or offenders, and we were leaning towards two offenders at this point, were mission-oriented in that when they came into the house, their purpose was to kill Mr. and Mrs. Xantop.
The murder weapon, a pair of combat knives, is particularly troubling.
The use of a weapon in a homicide is very significant to your type of offender. If it's a cheap Saturday night special as opposed to a very expensive pistol with a silencer, that tells you have two different sort of offenders there. And on the other end of the continuum, on even a lower end of the continuum, if someone's using a knife, that tells you a lot about your offender too.
Been able to determine what type of knife it actually was. It's like
The fact that the killers used knives and left behind crucial evidence tells him they are either sloppy or unsophisticated. Investigators suspect that the Xantops either knew their killers or allowed them into the house for some unknown reason. Fitzgerald is starting to get a picture of the killers, but the extreme level of violence troubles him.
When we're seeing a case that it makes no sense for various reasons, from a profiling perspective, we automatically hit the default to youthfulness. We just may have someone here youthful that the motivation is not about money, the motivation is not to get back to somebody or even up a grudge. It's, hey, we're youthful and our filtering system in our brain hasn't kicked in yet, so I know, let's go out and just hurt or kill someone.
He fears he may be looking at some kids who killed just for the thrill of it.
That went bad.
On February 9th, a list of the killer's post-offensive behavior compiled by the FBI profilers is released to the public. Investigators ask the public to recall if they noticed anyone exhibiting odd behavior around the time of the murders, or changing their appearance, missing work, or having unexplained injuries or bruises on the hands or arms. Calls pour into the task force. None of the leads pan out. After 2 weeks of non-stop work, investigators have hit a dead end. Nothing about the Xantop murder makes sense. Seems like a crime without a motive. With each passing day, the community becomes more desperate. 2 murderers are at large, and law enforcement still has no idea why they chose the Xantops and who their next victim might be. In New Hampshire, a task force of state and local police and FBI agents tried to determine why someone murdered 2 Dartmouth professors in their own home.
There was no discernible motive that we could come up with as to why these people would be killed.
Supervisory Special Agent Jim Fitzgerald is an FBI profiler assigned to the FBI's Behavioral Analysis Unit.
We were told initially that there was nothing missing from the house. We found out about a week or so later that, in fact, something was missing from the house.
Agents learn Half Xantop always carried a wallet, and his wallet has never been recovered.
Prior to us learning that the wallet was missing, it almost appeared like a motiveless crime.
Now that they know one of the victims' wallets is missing, it changes everything.
We said this could be a little bit different now, and this may have been a quote-unquote simple robbery gone very, very bad.
Gentlemen, I just have some new information.
If the motive was indeed robbery, investigators have only a handful of clues found at the scene. 2 unidentified fingerprints, an unidentified boot print, and 2 empty knife sheaths. The task force focuses on the knife sheaths and finding the murder weapons.
There's really a point in an investigation where you provide the behavioral work as much as you can, and then you have to sit back and let the gumshoe work take place.
Check this out.
Working with the manufacturer, investigators work to track down the sale of 5,000 combat knives all over the country.
Okay. This is all the dealers of that blade?
It's about 5,000 of them.
In addition to questioning retail dealers in the area, investigators research dealers who sell combat knives over the internet. On February 14th, they contact an internet retailer in Massachusetts. Supervisory Special Agent Brian Fitzel.
2 of the knives had been purchased by an individual in Vermont within, 20 miles of the crime scene.
Bells started going off and flags were raised that we may have a good break here.
The purchase of 2 identical combat knives is an extraordinary lead. Investigators follow up immediately. The 2 knives were purchased by a man named James Parker. He lives across the state line in Chelsea, Vermont. Mark Mudgett is assistant commander of the major crime unit for the New Hampshire State Police.
When we made the initial contact with the occupants of the home, we were somewhat shocked at the fact that it was purchased by a juvenile.
Jimmy!
James Parker is only 16 years old.
What's going on? You James Parker? Yes. We want to talk to you about some knives.
James Parker had indicated that he had bought 2 knives at that time. That he'd bought one for himself and one for a friend of his, a gentleman by the name of Robert Tulloch. That they had purchased the knives so they could use them while they were rock climbing.
Oh, well, when we
Detectives ask Parker where the knives are now.
So we took them to a local Army and Navy.
He tells them the knives were big. The boys decided they were too heavy for rock climbing and sold them at an Army-Navy store.
The trooper said that the hair on the back of his neck was standing up because when he started this interview, he had the feeling that this was not a legitimate story.
Investigators asked Parker if he'd be willing to answer a few questions at the police station.
Is it okay if I tag along? It'd be fine.
Parker agrees to be interviewed.
There you go, son.
And then the investigators went to interview his partner. And again, same story, that didn't really measure up.
What happened to the knives? Me and my
17-year-old Robert Tulloch corroborates Parker's story.
We realized that the knives were too heavy for us, so...
The knives were too heavy. The boys sold them for $60 apiece to a stranger at the Army-Navy store in Burlington, Vermont.
60 for both.
Do you have any kind of footwear, shoes, boots, anything like that?
Investigators are immediately suspicious. Tulloch's statement is not just close to Parker's, it's virtually identical. It's as if the 2 boys memorized their statements beforehand. Then the detective notices something chilling.
He noticed that the footwear was the make and model of the hiking boot that we were looking at. So, I mean, he knew very early on this was probably somebody involved in this crime scene.
They want to take you down to headquarters.
He did a very good job of maintaining the interview because this was, you know, no arrest warrants were in hand. He went out there to find out about the knives and then very quickly realized that he was dealing with one of the murderers right there.
Robert Tulloch agrees to accompany detectives to the Chelsea Sheriff's Office to be fingerprinted. Despite investigators' suspicions, without solid evidence to support an arrest warrant, they are unable to detain Tulloch or Parker. Deputy State Attorney General Mike Delaney.
They had no prior history with criminal activity. They cooperated with the police when they arrived. They voluntarily provided information and fingerprints and shoes.
He's free to go.
They place a late-night call to Tom Pfeiffer, the director of the New Hampshire State Police Forensic Laboratory.
I received a telephone call at 12 o'clock midnight requesting my assistance to the laboratory to do a comparison between a pair of boots that were recovered from a suspect in this case to those impressions that were developed at the crime scene.
In order to obtain an arrest warrant, investigators need proof that Robert Tulloch's boots match the bloody boot print found at the crime scene.
The pressure that was surrounding this particular case was enormous. I've never worked in a case in our state that had this much amount of pressure. If anything, it caused us to actually step back and recheck and double and triple check our work before we let anything out of this laboratory. This is your career on the line. If you make one misidentification, you might as well leave the world of forensics behind because you could never do another case.
Dr. Pfeiffer compares an impression taken from Tulloch's boots to an impression taken at the Zantop house.
About 3 o'clock in the morning, a colleague and myself made a match between the impressions left at the crime scene and the boots that were taken from the suspect.
The fingerprints collected from the scene match Parker's.
We knew that we were dealing with our murderers, and the two murderers knew that as well because after the state troopers left, these kids left that night. They got together and fled. So they gave fingerprints and footwear and then went into fugitive mode.
After weeks of searching, agents and police finally identify their suspects, only to lose them. 2 deadly teenage killers are now on the loose. Forensic evidence has implicated 2 teens, James Parker and Robert Tulloch, in a brutal double murder.
Detective Eric Bates with Hanover Police.
Armed with warrants, police travel to the boys' homes.
To check your house if you don't have a problem.
Both of them live with their parents in the small town of Chelsea, Vermont.
No, I really don't. I have no idea.
When we got into Chelsea that morning, and it was early in the morning, we had learned that they had both fled during the night, telling each other's parents that they were both going to be with the other family.
Detective Eric Bates questions Robert Tulloch's parents. They have no idea where their son is.
It was difficult to deal with the parents of these killers. Knowing the information that we had, you learned that the family members were good people and that, unfortunately, their children had become murderers.
In Tulloch's bedroom, investigators make a crucial discovery. Inside a cardboard box, they find 2 combat knives.
Got him. Oh, good.
In their statements, Parker and Tulloch claimed they sold the knives to a stranger. Investigators have found the murder weapons. Mike Delaney is a deputy attorney general working with the homicide unit.
Once we had the knives in the bedroom, it was pretty clear what we were dealing with, and at that point, I think everyone had solidified the opinions that they, in fact, were involved directly in committing these crimes.
This is where we are. The problem is that Hanover...
The case transformed once Parker and Tulloch had fled. They had shifted gears, basically, from an investigative trying to ferret out who had caused this now to an actual pursuit. The momentum increased, the intensity increased, but it gave us a great deal of satisfaction that we were able to identify who the perpetrators were in this crime.
A bolo, or be on the lookout, is issued for two teenage boys driving a silver 1987 Audi. They are wanted for questioning in connection with the Xantop murders.
You never know what's inside the mind of a person, what they're actually going to do when confronted, but certainly from a law enforcement perspective and for the general public's sake, you have to assume the worst in that regard, and we did. An axiom by which we live in the profiling business is that past behavior is the best predictor of future behavior. So by all means, these two were considered armed and dangerous, and all the relevant agencies and states that were contacted were told that, be very careful when confronting these two, because they've killed already.
Parker and Tulloch's pictures appear in newspapers and on television throughout the country.
The FBI issued the UFAP, the unlawful flight to avoid prosecution, to help us in our fugitive investigation. What that allows is the FBI can turn up a lot of resources on a UFAP.
In Massachusetts, a state trooper finds an abandoned car at a truck stop. It is a silver 1987 Audi. The trooper calls in the license plates. Within minutes, he knows that the car belongs to James Parker. Agents converge on the truck stop. An employee remembers seeing two clean-cut teenage boys asking truckers for a ride to California.
They were both looking for rides, I think.
According to the truck stop employee, one of the boys had dark hair. He wore it spiked. The other boy was blonde. They called themselves Sam and Tyler.
Yeah, that's cool.
We were able to effectively narrow the time of our trail to their original leaving of the vehicle in Sturbridge, Massachusetts rest area.
In Sturbridge, the two boys hitched a ride with a husband and wife trucking team. They dropped the boys off at another rest stop.
It was determined what type of truck they left in from there, based on those aggressive application of FBI resources, immediately sending people to these rest areas.
The FBI moves fast. They notify trucking companies and dispatchers that the two teenage boys are wanted. They are believed to be armed and dangerous. Authorities learn the two teenage boys might have been spotted at a truck stop in Columbia, New Jersey. According to witnesses, they hitched a ride with another trucker.
We were narrowing the chase because as our information was getting better, it was clear to us where we thought they were heading.
Agents notify police all over the region that the fugitives seem to be heading west. February 19th, 4 a.m. 3 weeks after the double homicide, the sheriff in Newcastle, Indiana, listens to the chatter on his CB radio. He hears a trucker ask if somebody can give a ride to two boys from New Jersey. They want to go to California. He does not reveal he is a police officer and quickly tells the trucker he'd be happy to give the boys a ride. He instructs the trucker to drop them off at a nearby truck stop. The officer speeds to intercept them. According to the bolo, the suspects are armed and dangerous. Along the way, he calls for backup. He may have found the killers. In Indiana, A sheriff attempts to trap two teenage fugitives at a truck stop. 16-year-old James Parker and 17-year-old Robert Tulloch are both wanted for the brutal slaying of two prominent professors. At the truck stop, the officer asks the two boys for their names.
What's your name?
Tyler J. Jones.
Tyler J. Jones. What's the J stand for?
Jeffrey.
Tyler Jason Jones?
Jeffrey.
Jeffrey. Okay. Where are you from?
We're from Encino, California.
Can you spell that?
E-N-S.
How about you? What's your social security number? Oh, I love it. You don't remember it right now? Hold on a second. Copy that. Look at the description. That's you? You heard that? We've got the suspects here. They identified themselves. Guys, hold the view over in the car.
He takes Parker and Tulloch into custody.
Cooperation and future testimony we're looking at.
James Parker was brought back to the state of New Hampshire along with Robert Tulloch. Adult certification hearing was commenced against James Parker, and he was ultimately deemed to stand trial as an adult for the murders of Hal and Susanna Zantop.
Just to steal some money.
Once he was certified as an adult,
Steal cards and credit card information.
James Parker's attorneys approached the state of New Hampshire in wanting him to offer testimony against Robert Tulloch.
James Parker ended up cooperating with law enforcement and was interviewed extensively by the New Hampshire State Police and the Attorney General's office.
James Parker pleads guilty to a reduced charge, accomplice to second-degree murder. In exchange, he agrees to testify against his best friend. He tells police the chilling tale of what happened on the day the Zantops were murdered.
Try something.
What materialized is the fact that these two guys were bored with their life in Vermont, that they envisioned going to Australia or some far-off place. They originally decided that they were going to rob somebody and take their ATM card or something to that effect, take $10,000 and fly to Australia.
Hey, I've got a question. Our car
They came up with the idea of knocking on somebody's door and saying that they had car trouble, can we come in to use your phone? And when
I don't think so.
they tried this in Vermont, the person felt very strongly that these two were up to no good and slammed the door in their face and said, get off my property. He was very close to being a victim of that. Well, when their pretext for broken car didn't meet with good results, they changed it to students conducting a survey for their school.
Hey, we were doing a school.
So they showed up at the Zantops' house totally at random, and unfortunately, the fact that Hoff and Susanna were college professors led them to be very open and trusting of students and invite them into their home.
Come on in.
And in the office environment where Hoff was murdered, it was clear that he was sitting at his desk conversing with these two students who were writing their pretend notes and interviewing him, and and then the signal was given to murder him in cold blood right in his office.
Suzanne and Half Zantop were teachers.
Is your wife the only person in this house?
They believed in helping students.
Okay. Well, how long have you been married and what do you do?
Tragically, their dedication led to their deaths.
You know what?
Deaths at the hands of two teenagers who agents suspect may have killed simply for the thrill of it.
Their goal was to commit a violent act, and the Zantops just happened to be in the wrong place, in the wrong time, in their own home. And how unfortunate is that?
When these perpetrators were interviewed after the fact, one of them made the admission that they had realized that they had left the sheaths and had given thought about coming back to the house to retrieve them. And I believe that they said when they went past the house, with that in mind, the police presence was already there.
Investigators are searching for some way to explain why Tulloch and Parker murdered the Xantops so brutally.
What you guys doing?
FBI profiler James Fitzgerald sees this type of random violence as part of a terrifying trend.
We live in a different society today. Even in our youthful culture, they're constantly exposed to violence. And I believe Parker and Tulloch fit right into that category. The motivation's not to get back to somebody or even up a grudge. So I know, let's go out and just hurt or kill someone. And we're seeing more and more of that, unfortunately.
When you left there that night, where did you guys go?
We spent considerable amount of time with him, several days, as he went through how he and Robert Tulloch had concocted and eventually perpetrated this crime. He showed no signs of emotion, no signs of remorse for what he had done.
I stabbed the Xantops.
They were from more or less a middle-class environment, low-crime area. Did not have some of the pitfalls that maybe others may be forced to experience in lesser environments. But nonetheless, there was a dysfunctionality about them. And when their chemistry was mixed, a violent outcome was apparently inevitable.
Investigators will never know what it was about the two boys and their chemistry that triggered such rage. In April 2002, James Parker is convicted of second-degree murder. He is sentenced to 25 years in prison. Robert Tulloch is convicted of first-degree murder. He is sentenced to spend the rest of his life in prison without the possibility of parole.